on, she'll tell me, I hope. Let me call to order. I pressed the button. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's call to order the Tech Transportation Committee meeting for September 15th, 2021. Two preliminaries first. One is we're going to add an item to the agenda under access permits. It's Quick Trip, and Doug Pote will do the honors there. That'll be item Roman numeral 2B, I guess that will be. So I don't want to surprise you with a new agenda item. It's already been announced. Also, we have a new member of the committee, if with your approval, to act as a proxy for City Bus. In this case, Marty's slot would be represented by Noah Mattern, who will raise his hand and wave to you. So please make that official by voting in favor of that proxy. Please will make that official. Noah Mattern is the proxy. So all those in favor of that action, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So I guess you're one of the group. Noah Mattern, proxy representing City Bus today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's then go to the minutes, which is normally what we do. Anything there that needs attention before we ask for approval?
One correction, somehow Colin BFS got moved up to a voting member of the board.
Okay, congratulations to him, but we're going to take that away. Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll move him down to non-voting and present.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Any other corrections needed?
not even a non-voting member.
Okay.
He's a visitor.
Yeah, that's right, visitor.
That
So
was
I
it.
need a motion officially for approval of the minutes.
I moved
So-
it. Okay.
I was just going to say so moved with that correction.
Okay, thank you. And
Second.
Stu, you get to do the
I'll do
second.
the second.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Same side. Minutes are approved. Access permits, so that's next. Yeah, usually we have nothing there, but I think we have something to discuss. So is this, who's going to be presenting this? Okay, we have somebody here. You'll announce yourself and we'll get you in the minutes.
Push the button. There you're live now.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Justin Frazier with T-Bird Design Services here in Lafayette. I'm here to present a project for Tippecanoe School Corporation. And along with me today, I have Tim Balanciefer with T-Bird, Tom Vandenberg with Michael Baker, and Steve Tobias with the School Corporation. So Tippecanoe School Corporation, its facilities out on Klondike Road is what's on this exhibit in front of you here. This is kind of an existing conditions exhibit. This project is going to be an expansion of their campus, essentially. And this existing conditions, the red circles show the existing accesses. Well, first let me say, the north side of the campus is Klondike Elementary. South side of the campus is Klondike Middle School. So then the circles are the red circles are the existing access points. There's 3 along Klondike Road. There's 1 along US 52, which I think is primarily used as a right out, is how they are trying to push that traffic. So and then there's 2 properties off of their campus that are colored there. One's in green. We're referring to that as the Shin property. That's based on the current past ownership. And I think that's 10 acres plus or minus there. The blue property to the south of that is, we're calling that the Krause property. Both the blue and the green properties, the school corporation is acquiring, in process of acquisition of those properties for this campus expansion. The single blue circle down there to the south on Klondike Road, that was an access. I believe it was put in with the Klondike Road improvements. I'm not sure. Was there one before there? Field access before. So there was a field access there before it was improved with the Klondike improvements, so. I think that's about all I was going to say about this slide, and the next one is the proposed conditions. So it's a little hard to see there, but essentially there's a new building. Both the green area, the blue area have been rolled into one larger campus. That blue area I didn't mention, but that's about 40 acres on the Kraus property that was addition. Be rolled into one larger campus. A new building, that new building over closer to 231 is going to be a new middle school. And then, so essentially, all the students that are currently in the existing elementary, existing middle school, they're going to be redistributed across 3 buildings in the future. So full build-out middle school, the new middle school is going to be grades 6 through 8. What's now the elementary school, which is now K through 5, will end up being a primary K through 2 school. And there'll be some renovations to that school that you don't see on the slide, but those concepts are still in progress. The current middle school will be renovated, and it'll be a intermediate 3 through 5. So you'll end up with a primary K through 2, intermediate 3 through 5, and a brand new middle school 6 through 8. So redistribution of the same students that are there, and they're just, they're just needing more space. So they're growing, and they're adding these buildings, and the associated parking lots, associated redevelopment of the athletic campus, that kind of thing. So, so we anticipate that we're going to need another access or improved access to Klondike Road, which is shown there in the line work there on the south end. And then an access to US 231. So those are the major impacts, I guess I would say. And obviously redistribution of the traffic internally. So the idea internally is buses are going to be separate from parent drop-offs. We're working through the internal guts on that, how buses are going to travel, how parent drop-offs going to work. But the idea is that they're going to be separate internally, and they're going to be able to go back and forth to each of the 3 schools without really having to go back on 231 or Klondike Road. But obviously, they're going to get into the campus from one of those areas. So, I guess we've already met with Highway Department, Area Plan Commission, NDOT, West Lafayette. I guess I should point that out too. Part where 231 connects is we've got multiple jurisdictions out here. The majority of the campus is in the county. However, a portion, specifically that portion that connects to US 231, is within the city of West Lafayette limits currently. And yeah, so there's just a mix of a lot of different entities out here. So pretty much in all of our early meetings, everybody seemed to like the idea of coming to this meeting, because everybody's going to be here, and I think we're ready to make that next step. We know there's going to be some impact. We know we're going to have some traffic analysis to do for some recommendations on what to do at these entrances, and I think that's what we're looking for today is some discussion, some input as far as what that scope of that traffic study should be for both US 231, Klondike Road.
Okay, Bill.
When you reached out to NDOT, what feedback did you get regarding US 231?
Well, so I didn't mention it, but there is an opening already on 231 on this property. So there is an access opening. So the feedback we got was traffic impact study, bring it to this group. They were not opposed to necessarily a new access here. They didn't believe at the time that they've seen schools introduced in situations similar to this, particularly like not a high school situation, a middle school situation. So as far as like signalization and that kind of thing, they were hoping that a signal wouldn't be warranted out here, if that was what your question was at.
That refreshes my memory. I know no new breaks and limited access, but I think you were able to show that an existing break was already there.
There was already a break there. Yeah, now, I don't know if there was conditions put on that access or not. I don't recall seeing anything like that, and they didn't bring anything up in the meeting, so. Is anyone here from NDOT? Oh, yeah, okay. I apologize. This is my first meeting at one of these meetings, so, yeah. So were you in that meeting?
Partially. That's why I wanted to see what you recalled, and let the group know that we'd already talked about limited access.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was also some general discussion about intersection type J's, blah, 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 but that's further down the road in the traffic study.
Yep.
That's my recollection, too.
So if you're looking for guidance on what should be in the study, impact at this access point, whether there would be need for left turn lanes, auxiliary lanes, if potential signal within the horizon year period, those are the types of things on the NDOT side that we'd be looking for in a study. That's a great question, because at the signalized intersections, there are pedestrian features up and down the corridor, except maybe the northern end at Sagamore. So, yes, would be the short answer.
And Tom, feel free to come on up here and ask if there's specific questions, scope-wise, that you need to know, because Tom will be working with us to put together an impact study, but. I should probably introduce myself.
Sure. Tom Vandenberg, Michael Baker, Indianapolis, former Lafayette area resident. What we are going to do, though, is provide a memorandum of understanding for the scope of the traffic study. That way then both NDOT and the county can review that to go through the specific technical aspects. I personally don't have any questions. I've read through the meeting minutes from both NDOT and the county, and I think it seems pretty straightforward. We're going to do, obviously, a signal warrant at that access, and we're also going to look at the access off of Klondike Road. And we'll have discussions with the school about how traffic will redistribute as they rebuild, et cetera. So, and we'll also look at pedestrian accommodations as well within the study. So I don't have a specific question, Justin, but the key thing is that we'll provide a memorandum of understanding that goes through the specifics of the traffic study scope.
Fair enough.
Are you, is it the intent that this would become a dedicated public road?
Well, that has been a question that's bounced around a lot. We're still evaluating that, so I don't think we've made that decision. The school corporation hasn't made that decision either way. There are some other impacts, particularly with utilities, some cost impacts that are affected, whether it's public versus private. I will tell you what has been decided is the section of the road. It's going to be an urban section, the width that a public road would be, regardless if it's public or private. At least in our mind and then the school corporation's mind. So,
if I remember right, there was some discussion. Is there a commitment for access to the south?
there was a discussion about that. There's not a commitment, no.
Okay, because it felt like, so there's nothing in the area, that area plan was, am I not remembering this right? There was some discussion. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, so Ryan O'Gara from our staff has been kind of working on that specific point about, what might happen to, there's actually a couple properties in the south that could potentially develop as well.
Yep.
But that would be a little bit of a later discussion. There would be more at the rezoning part of this when that kind of discussion would take place. So Ryan is aware of this. It's something that he's been involved with, and so I don't think at this time we have much, this committee has much to do with that specifically. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we did have discussions with Area Plan Commission, and that was brought up. We've discussed with the adjoining property to the south. They're not really in the position that they want to move forward with anything or have any kind of agreements, at least after 8 weeks of deliberation. We haven't heard anything else, so. I guess in my mind, I mean, you can tell from this exhibit, they're not proposing anything that would prevent anything in the future. So I think that's still open as well. But nobody's really came to the table to say, hey, we want this to happen. We definitely want a connection, and we, you know, we'll work together to make that happen. That hasn't happened.
What do we envision as next step? I mean, you came here because West Lafayette, Lafayette State, we're all in one room together. And city bus, too. What do we envision as the next step here?
So Tom, I think the next step, if Tom is going to be doing the study, would be our standard NDOT traffic impact study meeting, which we will invite the local participants. So the county and NDOT would both be there, and we'd go through our steps of the typical things that we would expect and answer your questions. And you could potentially even run that meeting. You've been in them before. I think that might be the next step. Would you agree?
Well, and I'll prepare that memorandum of understanding that will already provide all that information. Perhaps we could forego that meeting if everybody's in agreement from all the talking points from that memorandum of understanding. I leave that up to you, but.
I suspect we won't forego it,
We'll
but we might do
definitely-
it virtually
Okay.
in order to make it happen
And
quicker.
we'll have that document available for you beforehand.
Perfect. I think that's the next step, Stu, after that document.
That's a separate meeting from this one? Okay.
I'm just new around here, but it bears asking. Has any consideration been given to how development will affect our city bus routes in the area? We can provide ridership information, things of that nature, but it might be worth a meeting just to kind of talk about how this might affect us.
The public-private discussion might affect you greatly, too.
Right. I would agree.
Anything, any other input as this process moves forward?
APC staff, do we have any other questions that we needed to have addressed?
Well, I don't have a question, I have a comment. When I looked over this plan, I noticed on the proposed road crossing the two that it appeared to be a trail on the south side.
Yep.
Which, if that is, that's an excitement, because in our long-range plan, when we developed that, 4 or 5 years ago or so, that was a proposed trail connection between Klondike Road and 231, because we knew in the future trying to get one along 52 is going to be impossible. So we looked at one in this area, and that was actually included in the plan. So this would be a great opportunity for people living in the area, walking to school possibly, and then just, using this, because this area is developing more and more in terms of people walking, people riding a bicycle. Klondike Road recently constructed with a trail and with, a sidewalk. So, it's great that we're seeing, and actually being designed as a complete street.
So you'd like to see that trail preserved and built upon? And at 231 there, if that's going to be signalized, that'll open up access from the, looks like residential, to the east side of 230, which 231 now seems like be a barrier. So it'll all tie together. So
And
thanks for the comments.
I think the third exhibit was a boundary map, maybe. To my knowledge, I don't think there isn't a plan to change it, but immediately east of 231, across from the site, is Tippecanoe School Corporation, but it goes to Burnett Creek Elementary, so it wouldn't go to this school. So, but, I mean, that's what it is now, so. So I don't know how many people would be walking from east side, but definitely with the improvements to Klondike Road, I think the school corporation has seen some pedestrian activity along Klondike Road. So I think we've talked about that, incorporating that into the plan. So. But yeah, there's a trail on 231, there's a trail on Klondike Road, so I think it made sense. So.
Okay, other comments or questions?
I just wanted to thank everyone for their time and bringing this to us. I think it's a good forum to have these discussions, so thank you for the work you've done.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. Appreciate your attention.
Look forward to the next phase, so I love reading traffic impact studies.
All righty. Thank you, guys.
Doug did one for Sagamore Commons, right? Or at least oversaw that. Still under access permits, the quick trip one.
Good afternoon. This is actually a project that is being discussed quite extensively on our comprehensive land use side of the office rather than transportation. The development here is located off of State Road 43, just north of the interstate. And if you remember that location right now, where that first driveway is, that's approximately where the frontage road goes to what was the old hotel. And many, many years ago, I believe in the 90s, the gentleman who owned the property adjacent to that developed Northgate Court with various lots for future development. And with the hotel now gone, we have a developer coming in and looking at building a truck stop at this location. So with this proposal, the frontage road easement would disappear, and right now, this time, there are 3 access points off Northgate Court. The reason why we had some questions regarding this with the land use was regarding to signs and setbacks, and then also in the subdivision process, because right now it's multiple lots and they're going to combine them into one. The discussion we had yesterday was in regards to that first driveway into the development right there where the cursor is. And the discussion we had was, to us, it looks fairly close to State Road 43. And, our gut feeling is that, well, it is too close, especially if we had trucks lining up wanting to get out. And then if somebody wanted to turn in, how could they get in, especially if it was a large RV or a, dually pulling a trailer. Causing congestion at that. So we decided to include this on the agenda today and ask for your opinion as to should this driveway be located here? Should it, if it is, should it be just a right in, right out, or should a barrier be placed? Basically, the staff wanted your input and guidance and thoughts about this. So that's what our request is for.
I can go first.
Yeah, please.
So yes, Doug, that is definitely a concern. That's too close. And right in, right out, if that's considered, we would like to think that a center island on Northgate Court is the way that right in, right out would be managed so that it isn't used inappropriately. That might be acceptable, something to look at. And with any truck stop, one access point is challenging. So at 43, that being the one access point where all cars and trucks are entering and exiting, there may not be a solution because of limited access around an interstate, but that's a common problem in that type of situation. And protecting the actual intersection or future signalized intersection, that was a good thought. And so either no access or right in, right out would be the way to look at that, with a center island on North Gate, not just the pork chop type island
Okay.
on the entrance. Those don't work.
Great, well, thank you.
I would just add that the right in almost doesn't make sense. So it'd just be a right out,
Okay,
because there wouldn't be any traffic coming from further, is that west, on North Gate to enter that driveway. And it also looks like they designed it so that the trucks would be separate and would only use that back access off of North Gate.
correct, that's what our assumption was too in looking at it. Yes.
Well, as you said, there is that consideration of RVs and large, camping vehicles from Prophetstown. So that further, makes it further difficult to keep that open.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can tell you the campground at Prophetstown is packed year-round, literally, and they're already discussing Phase 2 of expanding it, so. Any other thoughts or comments?
Just a question, just. to
Yes.
get- Right, I'm trying to get my orientation. So you've got 43. We're south of the 65 overpass, right?
This is, the hotel would be, of course, north is up on top.
Yeah.
And the old hotel is actually basically, thank you, roughly down in that area.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure out where 43, where the approach split is. If 43 is our North River Road, and then it becomes your 43.
This is R43. This is north of I-65.
Yes, north of I-65.
Oh,
So we have jurisdiction over 43 here.
Yes,
The North Gate Court, who has jurisdiction over that piece?
battleground. And it's my assumption, or I think, the town of Battleground, or through us, we actually issue the driveway permits.
I would ask that NDOT be communicated with in that process, so that impact of 43, that whoever has jurisdiction helps ensure that that's looked at.
Okay,
And NDOT being our permit section, permit manager Jason Lewis. Thanks, Doug.
okay. So you'd like for us to reach out to him and let him know what's going on, and just at first off an FYI, and then,
Yes, because I don't know for a truck stop like this, if you and/or Battleground have asked for an impact study, but through an impact study process, we'd be interested in looking at 43 and what's the impact of that intersection right there. Specifically, again, if there's the potential of a future signal, could a covenant be involved where the truck stop owner would put it in if and when it was warranted? So would there be impact to 43 based on this development? We'd be interested in that coming out of a study if one's being done.
okay. So before any permits are approved, you would prefer to have contact with NDOT, discussion about the impacts, and then possibly with that, an impact study would be required?
Possibly, or none, no concerns and no necessary involvement moving forward, just that communication on the front end so we could talk about our concerns
Okay,
and make sure that if they need to be addressed, they are by the authority that controls the process, which isn't us in this case.
okay. So we just wanted to make, yes,
Next
Stu.
intersection
Oh.
to the north is 600 North, or,
This is south of 600 North.
okay.
All right.
So just north of this is would be vacant property,
Yeah, I was
Phillips
trying to picture it.
66, and then McDonald's.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, correct. We did a safety audit in this area a few years ago, and we met at the police post, and that was in regards to Speedway, the gas station, because they wanted to expand it. Speedway is located on the other side of State Road 43, or the east side, and They added additional pumps for trucks specifically. So knowing this area and how it's been developing, a road safety audit was conducted. And interestingly, we did talk about this intersection, and one of, I think, the suggested, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, improvements was possible roundabout. Is that correct?
At the North Gate?
Yes.
Really? I'm just figuring out. So at North Gate, that's where the Wendy's splits Wendy's and Speedway.
Wendy's and Speedway is on the opposite side of 43, yes.
But that's where the intersection we're talking about.
Correct.
And then that's basically a dead-end road. Is that so?
It's a dead end with a cul-de-sac.
Right.
Yeah.
And so right now it's unused.
Correct.
It's just the drive over into the Wendy's and the Speedway side is used. So then it becomes more of a full intersection with this facility.
That is correct.
Okay, I'm figuring it out. That's pretty close to 600, isn't it?
You still have the big Phillips, I think Phillips 66.
Yeah.
Or Marathon, and then McDonald's. And the building for McDonald's is orientated north-south.
Yeah.
So, because I think it's one of the few that still has the big play areas.
Pretty congested, but so that's Battleground all the way out that side into this property, right? That's all Battleground.
Correct.
Okay. Gonna be hard for me to get my double.
Yeah, in addition to the roundabout, which was one of the things that we talked about, which was kind of it was a conceptual conversation. One thing that we did notice that was kind of a current issue was at the other speedway on the cul-de-sac that Doug is talking about. Trucks would often park there overnight, and there were some concerns with how trucks were using that part of the facility.
Yeah, it's hard to get in and out of that speedway right now. Very difficult.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the comments, and we will pass that along to staff, and then I'll have that staff member contact Jason. Thank you.
Did I miss it, or has the truck stop purchased this? I mean, do they own this property, or is this still conceptual?
I believe it's conceptual. I don't know that answer. That was not discussed yesterday.
Okay.
They do have a preliminary subdivision, subdivision sketch plan next Monday to discuss this. So that's why we wanted to at least get some information from this committee, the thoughts and comments, so we could, move forward.
So this may be one of those purchase contingent on these approvals, right?
It could be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doug. Look forward to that one developing as well. Next on the agenda is something related to the TIP.
Yes.
I'm teaching transportation planning this semester. In week one, I talk about the TIP. And
Excellent.
How it's probably the most dynamic document you'll ever see, and we're going to change it again, right, today?
Correct.
Okay, so let's,
And not only one, but two still.
yes, make good on my promise to keep changing it. Go ahead.
So we have received a request from the NDOT district office to amend the TIP. And of course, since our new TIP has not been approved yet, as in being in the current STIP, we're amending the FY20 TIP and FY 2022 TIP. The request involves 7 projects. 2 projects are already programmed in the TIP, and there are 5 new ones. Regarding the 2 projects, the 26 project is a small structure replacement over Goose Creek. And in the tip, we do show funding for the various phases. But for the right-of-way phase, there was very little funding for it, and it was programmed in FY 2024. This amendment updates that information, and it will be now programmed in 2 years, fiscal year 2022 and 2023. And the total cost for this right-of-way phase is now $100,000. The next project that's already in the tip is a thin deck overlay project, US 52 bridge over the Norfolk and Southern Railroad. And if I read the information correctly, this is the bridge that is located just to the southwest of 4th Street, Poland Hill, Teal Road intersection. The request is to actually program the right-of-way phase. Currently, only the preliminary engineering and construction phase is programmed. Very small amount is being programmed. It's for fiscal year 2022. For the next 5 new projects, 4 are related to bridges and 1 is related to pavement. They are all on I-65. The 4 bridge-related projects are 600 North, Swisher Road, 900 East, and East County Line Road, and these all involve thin deck overlays. Preliminary engineering is programmed this fiscal year, and construction in fiscal year 2026. Because it's programmed in fiscal year 2026, we're adding a little footnote. This is only for informational purposes only because it is the out year. And then lastly, the project on 65 regarding pavement patching. The project limits are north of State Road 47 to south of State Road 38. Construction and preliminary engineering are scheduled for this fiscal year, with construction just a pinch over $2.7 million. The specific details of each project are listed in the staff report, and APC is recommending approval of this amendment to the policy board. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
We get to vote if there's a motion. Still trying to figure out where they all are. Got your, looking at your Google Maps.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Is that Stu? Second?
Jeremy.
Jeremy, thank you.
I'm still mapping.
Other questions or trying to find out where we are? You found Goose Creek yet?
Goose Creek is located on 26 West.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working our way on 52,
Mm-hmm.
basically north to south.
Within the city, if you're on basically, I don't know if it's Teal Road Extension, when you're at the intersection at 4th Street, Poland Hill, and you are heading west, you're going around the curve past the auto dealership, the repair shop. You come to a bridge over the railroad. That's the bridge.
25 Teal. But then I'm going on, that's the Norfolk Southern.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5 new fourth index overlays
Mm-hmm.
at
600 North,
600 North and Swisher,
Swisher, 900 East.
900 East, East County Line.
Yeah.
The other
These
one.
are all over the interstate.
Oh. Right.
Does that help?
Yeah. Just trying to figure out if we're missing any, if you're skipping anything.
I was way off, so I'm glad you explained that. But you managed to orient me without mentioning Mary Lou Donuts, so.
Well, that's to the north, so I'm sorry.
Because I noticed you jumped over, where they just finished the thin deck on 52 south of town over the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going 52 Teal, that corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And so that picks up basically everything on that corridor, right?
Except for the railroad bridge, which is this bridge that's going to receive the thin deck overlay. Because that's the choke point for sidewalks, because no work was going to be done with the bridge to keep the construction cost as minimal as possible. Sidewalks, we couldn't make the full connection of sidewalks.
That takes, pretty much all your 52 bridges will be thin deck down. And then this picks up your 65 over 65.
I don't know if it's all of them, but these are all over 65, but I don't know if it's all of them myself.
Now, the thin deck overlay projects have been pretty extensive for the last 4 or 5 years. This past fiscal year, there were a lot of them, especially on the Hoosier Heartland.
Oh, yeah.
Especially on the Hoosier Heartland.
NDOT likes doing thin deck overlays.
You could do some of ours. Now that you're professional at it.
Doug, have you spoken with Marty about any of these? Or has he had much to say?
No, usually like for these projects, would they involve, because Goose Creek that's outside of the service area. And then this thin deck overlay, it's pretty a quick project. And
Okay.
usually for these, it's mostly just, they'll do one side and then the other and use the shoulder. So I don't know what the traffic, maintenance of traffic will be. But the other ones are all outside of the service area as well. So generally, if it is, yes, I'll mention it to Marty. But with these, pretty much there's very little impact.
Okay. Yeah, just keep us in the loop.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, the work on 231 just south of Veterans Memorial that just got completed, that was a thin deck overlay.
Okay, I think there's a motion that needs to be disposed of. All this clarification is helping me keep up. Are we ready for the question?
I would move that we allow NDOT to thin deck everything.
That's out of order.
Everything in a whole bloody county. And
There's already a motion on the floor, Stu.
That's a good idea. That's already been moved and seconded, as I recall.
I'm still
So Stu's planning his next vacation. If everybody else is ready to vote, all those in favor of approving the TIP amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. And then we have administrative modifications.
Yes, this is for information. Just wanted to let you know that we did process a modification to both TIPs. This is regards to the Morehouse Road project that the county is doing. The project is now 2 phases. The old DES number in the previous, before this modification, was listed as Phase 1, and the new DES number was listed as Phase 2. And the modification just simply switches the phases. So the new DES number is now Phase 1, and this portion of the project is basically just north of 52 and goes to just a pinch north of Calbear Road. And then Phase 2, the old DES number will take it north to finish the project. So just a simple modification, we're switching phase numbers, that's it. So, but we wanted to let you know about this, that we did modify and change the TIP. So no action needed,
Okay.
just for information.
Thank you. Let's see, next we have the progress report, APC progress report. Tim, you're going to talk about survey and other things, okay?
Yes, so the survey that I'm referencing is actually the first step to developing a project list for our 2050 MTP. So this item is really pretty important for our local government engineers. So we're going to be in touch with you guys. I don't think any of you were here the last time we did this for our 2045 MTP. I think Opal was still here. Was this before you, Stu? Do you remember doing this? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So anyway, briefly, I will be in touch with all of you guys. I'll send around what we have from the 2045 MTP, and we're going to be taking that project list, using that as like a baseline. We're going to look through some of the feedback that we've gotten from this public survey that we sent out to see if there may be some projects that we could potentially add to the list. And then we will also want to fiscally constrain this list as well. So there will be a fiscally constrained list in the MTP, but we will also include an unfunded project list, I guess you would call it, as well. So I will be in touch with you guys about that, and we will look to get some meetings together to develop this list. You know, we know things change, so we can't just cut and paste our list from 5 years ago. Although it's a good starting point, you know, some things may have come up that we want to add to that, so be on the lookout for that.
Is this the spreadsheet exercise, or is this something else?
This is something different. It's mostly with regard to local projects, so how we're going to spend our federal dollars, and it's mostly between the three local government engineers.
Okay. Doug, you're up next on the annual listing of projects. There's a link that I didn't click on, so I wonder what it shows me.
It's huge.
Okay.
This is the one document that summarizes what has happened over the last fiscal year, and it includes not only NDOT projects, but projects in the county, Lafayette, and West Lafayette. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is actually required within the FAST Act, so it needed to be done. We've been doing this for many, many years. This is by far is the largest document. Matter of fact, it's so large now I have to bind them. I do have 2 paper copies if you'd like one. But to kind of give you the scope of what it includes, regarding the first section, this lists all of the projects individually, which these individual sheets include a description about the project location, what the project is intending to do. It includes an aerial photo, funding information, timeline, project timeline, so you can see how long the project has taken when it started. There's a lot of information, but for the NDOT, Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Tippecanoe County, there's 95 projects shown in this report. Tim has been scrolling through. The first part of the report is a summary. Basically, we start off with why we are doing this, information about the gas tax, how much gas tax does basically Indiana receive, and then we start looking into a summary of state projects, then we look at a summary of local projects. We have 2 tables that summarize everything, and it's broken out by phase. So I really like to first thank the minutes for the Board of Works meetings and the commissioners, because I read those all the time, and this is where a lot of the information does come from. So the details in these minutes are great, because I can just pull it out and I don't have to bug everybody, say, you know, what's this project or what's this project. So thank you for that. In addition to that, we have information from City Bus for projects. We also have information regarding pedestrian and bicycle amenities. a summary not only of local projects, but also NDOT projects. And then the last part of this front section is the process, how a project starts to actually receiving funding. So a person that wouldn't know the process would have an idea of how it works. Tim has up one of the individual project pages. As you can see here, there's a lot of information that is put into this. Gee whiz. We put in federal funding, total cost, estimated completion date, who the contractor is, and then we compare the federal funds that are spent to what's programmed in the TIP. We also have the timeline, which is really neat because a lot of those, of course, now are really short, but in previous years when we did these, the timelines were just extensively long. Then, of course, you have an aerial photo to see where the project's at, and then following that, we have actual pictures of the project. So that was really interesting, traveling around the county, taking pictures of all these projects. In addition to that, we also have a completed project section, so kind of summarizes what has actually been finished the last fiscal year. And between the 4 jurisdictions, we had 41 projects finished. We have maps that show those, where those projects are located, and then, of course, individual sheets. And then for the bigger projects, we have a comparison of before and after. But then a lot of the little projects, we just don't have enough time in our schedule to get a before and after picture. So some of those are after construction, especially like the thin deck overlays. They're so quick to get out there beforehand and try to get that scheduled is pretty difficult. And then at the very end, of course, we have the list that NDOT Central Office provides to us. We are the only MPO in the state that has a document like this. The South Bend MPO has something fairly similar, but the mandate is to show where our federal funds are. When we started this report, we decided to take it a step further and show not only our federal funding, but also local funding, what local projects are being done, so you could hand it to a citizen and they could get an idea of how much the jurisdictions have spent on projects and on which project. So a fairly comprehensive document.
Yes.
And I'm already started working on the one for next year. So.
Well done. Any questions or comments on this one?
That's a lot of data.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And worthwhile to compare projects and see when things don't make sense, that the money doesn't line up and all that jazz. And you went way too fast, Tim.
Okay, then, so, are we ready to move on to Teal Road?
Mm-hmm.
It says NDOT will report this. Bill, you have this memorized, this?
Well, actually,
You're going to come to his rescue?
I wanted to put this in because, it's been a while since we've had an update. I mean, this is a huge project. And it's still, if you drive out there now, nothing looks like it's being done. But do have some news to report. Regarding utilities, of course, there's 8 utilities involved in this. Utilities that have completed their relocations: Duke Energy, U.S. Signal, Indiana Data Line relocation, and then the Lafayette Water relocation. There is one utility that has done and performed all their relocations, but it's not finalized yet, so the consulting firm overseeing the relocations have not finalized that, and that's MetroNet. And unfortunately, we have 3 utilities that have not completed their relocations, but are anticipated to be completed by the end of this year: Frontier, Comcast, and Vectren. So kind of give you a status on the utility relocation. For construction, right now, the information that was given to me, the early start date is still April 1st of next year. So That's just, in a nutshell, a quick update of what's going on with the project.
Doug, do you know anything about phasing? Like, where are they going to start?
Good question. I didn't ask that. My apologies, but I can ask.
I was just curious, because I've heard different things, so.
Would it be helpful maybe at like next month's meeting to try to get a project manager here, so perhaps some of these questions can be addressed?
That's a great idea. I know, what we do know is the original phasing is out the window. So, yes,
That's why I'm asking.
let's bring the
question
PM
again.
in, and I could arrange that if you'd like for me to.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Thank you, Bill.
Because we do get a lot of questions about Teal Road. A lot of them we send straight to you, but we do try to answer what we can.
Yeah.
You can answer some of them. I'm not sure we can answer all the questions that come.
Yes. Two-page report. Once again, if you look on it, fairly little has changed. I did not have enough time to look on the bid letting, NDOT's bid letting today, because if you look at projects 1 through 4, it is on today's bid letting. Of course, there are 4 projects, all related to bridges. That information we will bring to you next month in terms of if the projects were let, and if they were, who the contractor was awarded to, and all that funding information. Looking down at Project 5, it doesn't appear to be any changes here, but just as a side note, the contract number for this has changed, and that will show up in next month's report. It's been moved out of this one contract to another one, but we thought we'd just mention that. Project 6, that project was initially scheduled for an August letting, but had moved to an October letting. And then again, if you look down a little bit, projects 8 through 18, the big I-65 widening project, appears to be still on track, so keep our fingers crossed. Going to page 2, project number 24, Sagamore Parkway Trail, still on a January letting. And report some good news is that, if I remember correctly, Tim, please correct me, the NEPA documentation has been approved. So one big hurdle has been jumped over and moving forward. Project 28, that letting date has changed from a January of 2022 letting to a March letting. Projects 29 and 30, no changes, but this involves adding auxiliary lanes, accel, decel lanes on 52. This would be south of Teal Road, various locations. Project 34, 52, new traffic signal at the State Road 28 East Junction. There is currently a temporary signal at this place, at this location, but this project will turn that one to a permanent one. Project 38, we did receive information. This was scheduled on a September 2022 letting. That has been moved to a January 2023 letting. And the last 2 projects I'd like to point out, 41 and 42, Yeager Road on an October 2022 letting, and then a month later, McCutcheon Pedestrian Safety Project. So, got a lot going on, a lot coming up. So, once again, I foresee next year's annual listing of projects be significantly large. Questions or comments?
Is there other business? If not, citizen comments are in order. If any came in. Okay, our next meeting would be October 20th, here at a similar time. So is there objection to adjourning? If there's no objection, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you for your attendance and participation. At 3:02, not bad. Can you find your way out without checking?
You're giving me that look.
Well-
Meeting with Tim and David afterwards, it's like, you were about to